Hi, this is Lee with learningwithlee.com. We're going to keep working on our CSS. Last time we worked on lists. And this time I just want to go back and talk a little bit about font sizes again and using percentages. All right, so when I make my screen small, if I can get it to let me, what happens to, here, put something up here. What happens to things like my words are staying the same size even though my screen got smaller? The picture got tiny. Why did the picture adjust? Because I used a percentage. All right, my image is 50%, so it's always going to be 50% of the screen. And later I'll show you how you can tell it, I want it to be 50% of the screen, but when the screen's really small, then I want it to be 90% of the screen. So we can have it adjust as your screen gets smaller. If people are going to use a cell phone, they're not just going to use a big computer to look at your site. So there's different ways you can use percentages with margins. We used percentage with the border radius. Margins you can use it for. I like to do something like body margin 90% or something like that to just put a border. We've used margins to put borders around, but I killed my page. Oh, you know what I did? That's not what I wanted to do. Where'd my page go? Anyone know? Look, there it is. Duh. I was saying the word margin, I wrote margin. Width. Give it a width of 90% to make sure there's an edge around the page. I didn't mean for the margin to be 80% of the page. Instead of using margin, it just takes putting a margin on like each little part around the page. You can just use a width on the whole body, and it just gives it that little border, makes it nicer to look at. Okay, so that image, I could make it 30%, just so you can see it change. But then it would be really tiny when our screen got tiny. So, width 50%, margin, padding, so you can use 50%. So if you're spacing things across the page, you can be like, I want this picture to take up 30% of the page, and then the paragraph next to it, I want that width to be 60% of the page. So you can see how you can use those together to align things on the page to give it the visual that you want. So a width is a good thing to use a percentage on. Something you can do for fonts is to use something called Viewport. It's going to be based on the size of the viewpoints, like the size of the screen. Okay, just made Brett's huge, right? But it will adjust. See how it gets smaller automatically? It adjusts to the size of the screen. So it's a nice thing to use for what we call responsive design. We want it to look good on a tablet, on a cell phone, on a small cell phone, a big cell phone, a laptop. People are looking at things on their TV even now, big huge screen, right? So you want it to adjust. You want your website to adjust. So viewport width is another way to do fonts, and another way you can always just use pixels as well. 60 pixels. I made this big at the top. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. So you can play with that. We should probably change the size of this font, our list items, while we're talking about font size. I guess I don't have anything just for list items. The list items, we want font size. What should we use? Should we use our new thing? What happens if we put 2? And it's big! And then it gets too tiny. So I don't know that that's a good solution for the steps. So let's try, we can use a decimal point. Do you see that? 1.2. We could have a different size for different things. Let's make our unordered list bigger font size. 1.5. Dun, dun, dun. And we'll learn how to adjust the size of everything as screens change size. That's something we'll work on changing. So percentages and viewport width, things to play with this week, and we will keep moving along. This still isn't looking so good. I need to get this picture moved to the middle. So why is the one in the middle, the other not? Because I didn't put it in an image container. I always suggest you put your images in an image container. I don't know why, but they're easier to control that way. Image container, little div, and then I have, let me show you how I do the image. I don't remember what I've shown you. So the image container, I do margin auto to help put it in the middle, text line center, and then the image, I want it to be 50%, and the height auto to automatically adjust to keep its proportion so it doesn't go funky on you. Yeah, just leave it. Okay, those are the things. Percentages, try it out with different widths. Use percentages, margins, paddings. You can use percentages on. Try it out. See what happens. If you're not sure if you can use a percentage, see what happens. And VW for viewport width for an automatically adjusting size. All right. And I'll see you next lesson.